Okay, what I'm doing this morning is making pins, glass-headed pins. Now, this is actually for a special order from some friends of mine who cater to historic reenactors that do colonial and Civil War. So what I'm doing here is I'm cleaning off the rod to make sure there's no dust or other junk on it. This one tends to blow up, so we'll see if I can do this without blowing it up. I have to heat it gradually. And I'll make way more than I need, and any extras that are left over will simply go into my own shop for people who want veil pins, glass top veil pins. But most of these will be used for the front of women's jackets. Instead of buttons and buttonholes, you simply put, well, depending on the size of the woman, 4 to 6 pins down the front of it to, well, I suppose could be more than 6 if you're larger. 4 to 8 pins down the front of it to close the front of a jacket. What I'm doing here is I'm getting this to a right temperature by watching the color change. Now, in order to get glass to stick to metal, the metal has to be hot. So I just heated the metal. I'm spinning this metal piece in my left hand. Get it round. Check the end to make sure there's no metal showing. And let it cool enough. Now, normally the lights are off in here, so I have to be more careful. I have to let this cool to a sufficient degree so that it's not going to stick to the inside of my oven here. Then when I'm done with that, it goes in the oven. And I start another one. And I'll do that, let's see, I've already done it probably 50 times. And I'll make probably a couple of hundred of these today. I can make these different shapes. Some of them are round, and some of them are more teardrop shaped. And when I make up sets of them, I actually make sure they match, both in terms of color and shape. Checking the end. It's okay to have a tiny dimple, but it's not okay to have metal showing. Then I make sure it's cool enough by waiting for the glow to go away. And it goes into the oven, which is actually called a kiln. I wear eye protection, which protects me from the UV, and I also wear, well, this is a cotton shirt. This is not cotton, but don't usually get hit above the elbows if a piece of glass breaks. And the front of me's got a leather welding apron on it, because every once in a while you do get a piece of glass that breaks, and if it lands in your lap, it will stick to your jeans, which is a bad thing. I know some people who have acquired some pretty nasty burns that way. These over here are used for making glass beads. And in order to make a glass bead, as I said before when I was making the pins, you heat the metal and the glass will actually fuse to the surface of the metal and not come off. Basically, in order to get this glass off the metal, I would have to break it. But if you're making glass beads, you want to have that hole that goes all the way through. So, in that case, what you do is you put, this is actually a type of clay slip, like you would use for, if you're familiar with pottery, when you put a handle onto a cup. The cup and the handle are made separately, and then the handle is glued on with what they call slip, which is just extra wet clay that's like a glue. And this is a type of slip that's used for allowing me to separate a glass bead from a piece of stick. Otherwise it would fuse to this, and then you wind up with what we call a flower pot decoration, where you can't take it off. If I were to make a glass bead, I would simply heat up my stick. And I'm going to have to heat this up too, because again it won't stick unless it needs to be at least a little warm. Now I'm going to do this differently than I would do the veil pins. With the veil pin I keep a pretty sharp point on this thing so that I could direct the glass. Here I'm going to create a pea-sized lump of glass. Now you can see the stick I've got here, the mandrel, which is just stainless steel welding rod with the clay slip on the end, is starting to get a little glowy there. Now all I'm going to do is lay this on. By adding more glass, it's going to naturally spread out a bit more. If I want to spread it even farther, I can roll it on this piece of graphite. See, now I have a tube-shaped bead. Polish it a little bit to get rid of some of the marks that it makes when you work on graphite, because you want a smooth surface. Then I have to let it cool down. You can see the glow gradually going away. This will change color completely. One of the bizarre things about glass is it changes colors completely. So that you don't have to wear a chin strap to keep your hat on when the wind is blowing. But they're fancy tops with different colors and designs, and some of them have swirls, and these are used by people who are either using very lightweight hats and just need something little to hold it in place, or they use it as decoration on turbans and things like that.